Langeweile rausziehen. Ach, wir gehen gleich live.
Okay.
So, welcome to today's track, Visual Perfection. And we are going to be listening today to the first session, Scaling Facebook Ads with Advertorials. Arnas is our presenter for this session, and he is going to present us on this topic. Who's Arnas? Arnas has worked with over 100 brands on their Facebook and Google Ads within the last 4 years, ranging from small startups to venture capital-backed brands. To hypergrowth startups, he has seen it all. Within the last 6 years, he has spent over $10 million in ads and generated more than $50 million in sales. Great figures, so let's go and get our insights, how we can improve as well based on his insights and information he's providing us on how to scale Facebook ads with advertorials.
All right. Thank you for the keen introduction. Good to see that so many people joined and so many people are interested in this topic today. And today we'll just talking about how you can use advertorials to scale your Facebook ads to the next level, or how you can use it to implement it into your current marketing strategy and therefore achieve more sales with it. Before we start, I would like to ask a question, and that would be like, who of you has ever read news on Facebook or any other social networks? You can write it in the chat, or you can also like the question under the Q&A section that I put in there. So I'll give you some time for this so we can have a quick overview. All right, I see already the first person wrote in the chat, second one, third one, fourth, fifth. Sometimes. All right, so we already have quite a few people who read their news on Facebook or other social networks. And I'll come back to this later, why exactly I ask you the question, because it will lead to then explanation why advertorials are so good on social networks and why they're working so great. And what you can expect like from this, what we saw is like an average increase of 2.1 ROAS with advertorials on Facebook. So basically we doubled our ROAS with this strategy. Let's get to the agenda. So we'll firstly talk about the status quo and common problems with Facebook we currently have. Then I'll give you a quick introduction to advertorials and how to use them for Facebook. We'll look into two cases. The first case is a hair growth brand, which is a problem-solving product, and the second case is a watch brand, which is more kind of an emotional product, so they're quite different. And the fifth point for today would be the implementation, the frameworks, and the scaling methods that we used to make this successful. Short summary about me. I started online marketing actually 7 years ago already. I had my own first business 7 years ago. I worked self-employed, had my first agency clients. It wasn't too successful, so I switched to being employed as an e-commerce manager for a bigger online store where I managed the Amazon ads, also eBay platforms, other marketing platforms, in marketplaces like Google and Facebook. And we also did Idealo, who probably might know it, who's from Germany. And then I realized that the work was quite unsatisfying for me. And in the meantime, I was getting more and more clients from my own agency. So I also switched again. I quit my job and worked as a freelancer for the time frame of 1 year. And then I started a new venture, which is called KISS Agency, where I'm working today with my two co-founders, Philip and Dominic, who are from Germany. And we're basically a performance marketing agency, which does Google and Facebook ads mainly for e-commerce businesses. So right now, Facebook is a declining platform. Less and less users visit Facebook daily. The demographic on Facebook is getting older. Most of the users leave to new platforms like TikTok, for example. And that brings quite a lot of problems with it. And also, the other problems that we see on Facebook is surely the iOS 14 update, data restrictions, GDPR regulations, and many more things that make the performance worse. So, and the most common problems that we saw after the iOS 14 update, or that our clients saw and our partners, is mainly unstable performance. So Facebook ads tend to work for 1 week, and the second week they didn't work anymore. We had to restart the campaigns over and over again. Sure, that's not really a good strategy there. Then we had diminishing returns. Like it wasn't like it was before. We spent the same money, but we didn't bring in the same results. We had problems with scaling. We couldn't scale past 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a day with the same setups that we used before. We had problems with reporting inside the business manager. So in some cases, we even saw just 30% of the data. Before that, you would see everything. Right now, it's around 30, 40%. And the other things would be, all right, if we change something now to our advertising account or to those campaigns, it could be that we might break something, and we wouldn't really want to change it because at least there was some performance. But what happens if we change it? So it's quite hard. And we thought, all right, but there must be a way to go past these issues. So we said, all right, we accept the challenge and we'll try to make the ads profitable again with some creative working. So we identified a few things which could lead to a better performance. The first one would be, all right, let's try to design more engaging creatives. And we tried quite a lot of stuff. We hired actors who would basically shoot the ad for us. We used animations. We hired an animator. We hired professional video editors to make like outstanding creatives. But it really also didn't cut the chase, because the performance was a little bit better, but it wasn't quite that good. The second point would be we tried to create more attractive ad copy. So that means we use different marketing angles to speak to different people. Like we tried different messages for those people. So one time we would talk about problems, solutions. The second one about features and benefits, and the third one would be about another one. Currently seeing the chat that many people write, it's frozen. I'm not sure if I have to refresh my page or everything is working fine. All right. And the third point would be to test different landing pages and bidding strategies. So by landing pages, that means we tested sales pages, advertorials, blog tutorials. There are quite a few different strategies. We optimized the product pages, made specific product pages where we sent the people to. And with the bidding strategies, who's not that experienced with Facebook, there's like an automated bid strategy where we let Facebook decide, all right, we want to get the most customers for the lowest cost. And this bidding strategy is called lowest cost. It's the standard delivery system that Facebook mainly uses. And then we have manual bidding strategies, which is, for example, cost cap, where we basically tell Facebook, all right, we want to acquire customers for $30, for example. And the second one is bid cap, where we set a specific bid that we want to bid at least to get a higher potent or a more potent audience who's more ready to buy. So those are the manual bidding strategies. And what we found out is that broad and cost cap, it worked to some extent, but you will need a lot of data to make this work at least. The second on the second position, it was broad and bid cap. So with the higher bids, we could achieve a better audience, but it was also quite unsatisfying to some extent, comparing it like to the to the Facebook ads that we had before in performance. And the first position, we had the advertorial, like a combination of good ads with a great landing page. And we asked ourselves, why is it so effective? So there are mainly four reasons why our advertorials are great for our business. The first one is effectiveness. You can look up some studies and you'll see that advertorials lead to 81% more sales. And the reason behind this is mainly because they trigger an emotional reaction. And the advertorial itself, if you look some up on native networks like Taboola and Outbrain, you'll see a landing page where people talk about common problems that you might experience with the product, and they'll tell a story and how somebody got rid of that problem probably, and it appeals to the target audience because they can see themselves in it. So that's why it also creates an emotional reaction, and it's really attractive for the user to read this stuff, and then he finally decides to buy it. The third one is it's appealing to the target audience. That's already what I mentioned. And it's also blending in with the platform, and it does not resemble ads. So if you see an advertorial on Facebook normally, it doesn't look like a product that you're trying to sell. Mainly, most of the people currently on Facebook, they just try to push their product. So normally, if you scroll through your Facebook newsfeed, you would see products of all of different kind of advertisers where they say, all right, here's the feature, here's the benefit, here's the problem, here's the solution, and it's working so well so far. And you have all the kind of review, testimonial, UGC content, like all those different strategies, but it's always about the product. And what you're doing, like with the advertorial, you're basically having an information article where you say people, all right, that's the 5 reasons for your hair loss, for example. So, and it's not really directly selling your product. It's more like an indirect approach where you basically make the people aware in the first stage, and then you send them to the sales page or to your product page. And there's also a study. That's also why I asked a question in the beginning. As you can see, the study is from, I think from 2016, I'm not sure, or no, 2020, sorry. And in 2020, they made a study and they saw that 36% of US adults get their news from Facebook. So that's 1/3 of the population of the US get their news from a social network like Facebook. Almost half of the US adults say they get their news from social media, often or sometimes. So that's also quite a lot. And what you're trying, like we can make use of this. So you also see like there's YouTube, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, Messenger, and Snapchat. There's quite a few platforms where people get their news from. And we can reach all those users because normally those users, they're probably not buyers that we can target on Facebook. So they won't even see our ads on Facebook because they're not really interested in advertisements about products, but they're more interested in news and articles and informational articles. So what we're trying to do with the advertorial is to reach those users, because those are basically information seekers who are not aware of their problem. So it's kind of a blue ocean strategy. Everybody is swimming in the red ocean, and you're trying to grab all those users from the blue ocean. Yes. So let's get to the case. In the first one, we had a hair growth brand, which is a problem-solving product. It's a perfect fit for an advertorial. The time frame was from April 21 to now. The ROAS goal was 1.9 for a cold audience, and the product was a great fit for an advertorial since there's a lot of skepticism towards hair growth products, hair loss products, and most of the people, they want to get more information about the product before they decide to buy it, because it's also like quite an expensive investment if you do it like for a few months. And as you can see, we have the gray boxes with the client setup that we had before. Then we have our setup in the black box, and then we have the red and green one for the advertorials. So the client has spent 880,000 with their setup in a specific time frame. Then we had our setup, which was running probably for 6 months with 700,000 spent, and then we had another I think another 3-4 months with the advertorials. So we had less spent with 582,000 spent for the advertorials. You can see the CPA with the client setup, it was 646 euros. Then we, sorry, it's a DKK, it's Danish crowns, that's why it's so high. Then we had 838 in CPA with our setup, which was quite higher, and the advertorial had an CPA of 504. So it was quite cheaper compared to our setup. The CTR on the advertorial was twice as high compared to our setup and to the client setup almost. And then we had the ROAS, which was quite amazing because the client setup, it was dimpling around 1.34 in ROAS. Our setup had 1.7, but the advertorials had a good ROAS of 3.5, so it also doubled, and almost with the same spend. So that was a really good sign for us that it's working really well. And then we had the second case with a watch brand. The time frame was 2020 to 2021, which is an emotional product. The minimum ROAS goal for this was 2.2 for the cold audiences. And we already knew, all right, this product is probably, it's not the best fit for advertorials because it's more kind of an emotional product. And what do you really want to tell about a watch? Like you can tell, all right, this watch, it looks good. It gives you status. It's quite a little bit harder. So the advertorials, you can use it like for every niche and for every industry, but sometimes you'll have to get creative to make it work for yourself. And also I see that I included the data studio graphs for you. So after the presentation, you can also have a look into those. So the case for the watch brand is we had the old framework where we simply put out product ads. It was 122,000 spent, and the advertorials, they had spent 112,000. So it was 10,000 euro less. The CPA went from 85 euros to 91 euros. So it was a bit more expensive from the CPA. The CTR, as you can see, it wasn't that high. So the push in the CTR wasn't that high as we had it on the hair growth brand product. So it went from 0.51 to 0.6. And the ROAS also increased a little bit by 10%. So it wasn't that much that we achieved with the watch brand, but it was still working. And we were probably also targeting a totally new audience, which wasn't aware of the product before that. So it's still growth in this aspect. Let's get to the framework for the advertorials. So there are quite a few general settings that we have to use before we can even use the setup. So what we mainly use is a generally themed Facebook page. So there's an example on the right side, as you can see. Here we have home decor ideas, for example. So if you have like a furniture brand where you sell sofas, chairs, and tables, you wouldn't want to run the advertorials through your Facebook page that you normally would do it through. You want to create a separate Facebook page, and there are quite a few reasons for that. firstly, you want to spread the negative feedback score. So if you have like bad customer service or I don't know, bad shipping times or something is off, you don't want to get all those negative feedback scores on your main page. You want to spread it out, so you don't have you're not running into the issue into being blocked by Facebook or even having a higher CPM because your feedback score is below 3, for example. The second thing is, within different page, you can target like a different audience pool, because Facebook also considers like, all right, this is a home geek or idea site. I'll show it to a different audience, comparing it like to your furniture brand, where you also get a different audience. So you want to use like multiple audiences that you can target. So that's another aspect of it. Also, if you use multiple pages in your advertising strategy, you can enter more auctions in the same time. And what we also have seen, like on most in the cases, is like that the GPM, that the CPM is much cheaper for those pages that are not specifically selling a product, but they're giving like updates and information and sharing articles and so on. Then the other aspect is we need a lot of creatives. You might know those creatives from native advertising networks like Taboola or Outbrain. So it's quite enough to simply use stock images from sites like Pexels or Shutterstock. And the important aspect of this, what we saw, is that you need to use creatives that are similar to your product. So if you're selling a hair loss product, you would write an informational article about like the 5 reasons for hair loss and how to conquer it, and then you would have an image of somebody like with thin hair, for example. So they need to correspond with the audience that you're targeting. And also make sure, if you want to try the strategy, to use all ad formats, because what we also saw is that the images were working great in the beginning, but then we switched to videos, which was working better. And then we also tried some carousel ads, and like you need to try different stuff to see what is working for you, because every ad format is also targeting like a different audience, because not everybody is looking into images, not everybody's looking into videos, not everybody's looking into carousels, and you wanted to get the most out of it. So and the third one, which is quite important, is the ad copy, for sure, for the ads. And what we used for the ad copy, instead of creating like customer avatars, I think most of you might know what a customer avatar is. So we would instead use marketing angles. So we would identify like the common issues or problems that people might have with our industry, niche, or product. So for example, if we take a skincare product, we would search in Google like for the top 10 skincare issues. And then we would come up like with a list from the Google results where we see, all right, one of the issues is acne, the second one is dry skin, then we have itchy skin, wrinkles, and then we would create like different marketing angles to target all those users. So one audience pool would be, for example, acne, the second one would be dry skin, then the fourth one would be wrinkles. And then we would write specific ad copy for this, use a specific image, and also send them on a specific landing page where we talk about the problem and give them like more information so that they are aware of that. So, and then let's get into how does need the ad copy to look like. So we have an introduction. So that's about the creative. You'll also see 2 examples after that. We have the introduction, which is a catchy phrase to grab their attention, to hook them. It mainly starts, you can also look up some really good examples from native networks, as I mentioned already, like Taboola or Outbrain, because they're made for advertorials, and you'll see like a lot of ads which start like with, why do people lose hair in their 30s? This is the way to cure hair loss, for example. Do you know that scientists discovered a new hormone to reverse hair loss. So those are all examples that you can use as an introduction, as a catchy phrase, which hook the people, and then you send them into a long form ad copy with a marketing angle that you specified before. So then you would have like also a good hook, where you would say, all right, a recent breakthrough just showed that scientists discovered new way how you can reverse your hair loss by 80%, for example. And then you would have the ad copy where it's explaining how they discovered, what is it. And if you want to see more of this, then access here the full article or read the full article here. So that's mainly the framework that we use for the ad copy inside Facebook ads. And that is how it would look like in one example that we used. So we have, why do some lucky people keep lush, beautiful, and thick hair their entire lives? Then we have a long text where we describe it with some scientific stuff also included. And then we have a new article was recently published about this fascinating discovery. You can asset it here as a CTA, and you can also see the image. It's showing like a woman losing hair. And then the second example, again, you can also see an image where we have like this kind of hairball, somebody holding in the hand. And we have an introduction with the catchphrase, scientists may have finally found the root cause of early hair loss. So we're trying to grab their attention with those ads. And then we have the landing page. The landing page, it can be designed to your needs. But there's like no specific way to create them. Like we have some framework, but in the end you can simply decide how you want to do it. If you want to create a fully fledged blog with all news articles where you share articles and so on, or you can either just create one simple page. There's one good example from HelloFresh for which they're running on the native network, where they basically send the people to a simple landing page, which is kind of a blog, but it's just a landing page on there. It's called Superfood Blog, I think. And so there's quite some different methods that you can use there. But mainly the framework is you have a blog page which is generally themed. So if you have a Facebook page that is called Home Decor Ideas, you would also name your website like this. So you would use homedecorideas.com or de.net. Then you have your blog page, which is a catchy headline. So you can also use the same headline that you already used in Facebook before. So if you had like 5 reasons to cure hair loss, you would use the same headline in the blog article, for example. Also, make sure to include statistics and research articles, so it gives more trust to the people. Because what we also saw is that if we simply write a page without any scientific background, it's not working that good. But if we include it, it's working way better. Also, make sure to include images, because the images trigger an emotional reaction. So you can also, again, use the same images that you already used on Facebook with people who are losing hair or have thin hair, or like that you make the people aware of the problem again and trigger an emotional reaction. Then also make sure to use your USPs of your product to create a compelling story. So you don't want to mention, all right, you don't want to mention your USPs right in the beginning of the article. You want to share it through the article. So you would tease the user in the beginning and would say, scientists discovered the secret ingredient. And then, like, I don't know, if you're scrolling through the page, half of the page, you would then probably say, all right, the secret ingredient that scientists discovered is biopilixin, for example. And this is a root-based plant made from the curcuma plant, and it's 10 times more effective than minoxidil or other stuff. And it won an award for scientific discovery, and it's a really great product. So you would split out your USPs inside the blog article and make a compelling story out of it. And then at the end, you would simply have a CTA link or button where it's directly linking to your product page. Also regarding this, what we tried to do, because it takes a lot of time to create those pages. So what we tried is we use artificial intelligence software. So some of you might know there's like tools like Copy.ai or Jasper.ai, where you can simply write 2-3 sentences and it will create some kind of article for you. So it's really a way faster approach to write those advertorials. So you can look into this and try for yourself, and you'll see it's writing quite some good stuff actually, because it's using I don't know what's called GP3 language, I think, where it knows 10% of the internet, so it can literally write anything for you within a few seconds, and you just have to edit it and change a few things. So if you want to use it, make sure to combine it with the artificial intelligence software, because it's way faster. Yes, and that's about the framework for the advertorials. So then we have the framework for scaling campaigns. So what we did is we were running quite a few different campaigns. So we had like normal ads. We tried also DCT ads, where we basically let Facebook decide, all right, what is the best ad to show with the best message to the right audience. And we were looking at metrics like CTR, video average watch time, the awareness, like you would also call it thumb stop rate, like how many people watch the first 3 seconds of the video. And then we would also look at the overall engagement. So those are the metrics about the creative that we would look into. And then we would, in general, we always look at the purchases, AOV, CPA, and ROAS. And what we also saw is, like, because the advertorial is triggering an emotional reaction and it's giving the people a lot of information, the AOV for the advertorials was, I think, around 20 euros, even higher than for the product page itself. So because the people were spending more money, because they were trusting the product more, with because they were probably spending 10 minutes reading the advertorial itself. So they were more involved into the product. And then from those ads that were working great, we identified the BPA, like the best performing ads. So in Facebook, we have the opportunity to copy the post ID. If you click on the ad, like there's an option, Facebook post with comments, and then you'll see an ID in Facebook in the URL bar that you can copy, and simply you can reuse it as a dark post, is it called, in Facebook for other ad groups or other campaigns. And that's what we did. We identified the best performing ads. We copied those post IDs. We put them into a new CBO campaign where we had only one ad set with a high spend, and placed all those best performing ads in it. So we could also secure the social proof, because it's not disappearing if you do this way. Then we, again, from the CBO campaign, we identified, all right, what is working really well on the broad audience. And then we said, all right, we want more from that. So we implemented into a bid cap and cost cap campaigns. So we are trying, like, we saw, right, this ad is working really well, but we want to get more volume. So we took like the average CPA in the last 30 days. We implemented it into a bid cap campaign, set it as an average bid. And then we said, all right, let's run it with a really high budget and see if we can get more volume from it. And that's basically the scaling part with the bid cap and cost cap campaigns. And then the final stage, which is not always working, so you have to test quite a lot with different bid caps, cost caps. You need to increase it by 5%, 10%, probably just €1. In the final scaling campaign, we would basically take all those ads, they were working really well with the bid caps and cost caps that we tried, and put them into one CBO campaign where we would again use a higher budget and let then Facebook decide what to do with it. So if the bid cap with, for example, 50 euros would get more spend, or the one with 60 euros, we simply let Facebook decide and try to get the most volume out of it. In the conclusion for the advertorials, so the disadvantage, it takes a lot of time to create. It also takes a lot of time to maintain the ongoing blogs and pages. You also need to create like new advertorials. You need to try new angles because they'll dry out after some time. The other disadvantage is it may not work in every industry niche with the first angle, so you also need to try a lot. As we saw in the example with the watch brand, it worked to some extent. We still had a good ROAS, but we were expecting more probably. So you need to find like different angles and see if the advertorial even fits your product. So always make sure to look into that before you try the strategy. It's a good starting point. Like the benefit of it is it's a good starting point to increase your overall performance. If you're already running like a high budget and you're running a lot of ads, you can try to implement it to reach like totally new customers, because you're reaching like a different group, a group which is probably not even aware of your product or not aware of the problem at all. And you're showing your ads to those customers, and most of the time nobody is targeting those users on Facebook. So that's a good way to reach new heights. And the other benefit of it surely is you can redistribute your advertorials on different platforms like display, native, YouTube. You can even use it for search. So we also had quite a lot of success with Google search ads, for example, where we had like where we basically compared like the 5 best products in the hair loss industry, and then we positioned our product on the first position, and we were targeting like really broad keywords. So normally you would go on Google search and target more specific keywords, but in this case we could go and basically target a keyword like hair loss with, I don't know, 200 searches in UK, 200,000 searches in the UK, and we were achieving really good numbers with that. Yes, so that's the conclusion of the advertorials, and that's already it for my presentation. So now it's time for your questions, and thank you for listening.
It was great listening to your presentation. Has anyone got questions? Just to remind you, by interacting as well again with the session, you have a chance to win one of the books that are being offered. I see one of the questions is, for what kind of brand advertorials are they used? And I can't imagine big brands using it. What do you think, Arnas?
Yes, so there are quite a few big brands which are using it, probably not on Facebook, but as you see, you have like, for one good example, as I mentioned, is HelloFresh. They're like one of the biggest advertisers on Taboola and Outbrain, where they basically compare their product to restaurants and how it's like 10 times cheaper. So there's still quite a few brands which are big and they're using this kind of thing, but they're not actively using it on Facebook. And I think on Facebook, it's a little bit different, because on Facebook, you have like all the people who can comment, and you can get like a bad reputation for your brand on Facebook, because it can break out like literally shitstorm if they identify right. They use another page with a different name, but they're still advertising their brand. So I think big brands are probably not that interested in this strategy. It's kind of more like for the smaller brands who want to achieve like a bigger market share in their industry mainly. That's what we saw so far. So hope I answered your question with that.
Yeah, and I see as well here another question: can advertorials be used for fintech industry advertising?
Sure. So we have also 2 fintech clients, where it's more like about investments, and like the second one, like one is about investments, the other one is about learning trading online. And we use it on Facebook, we use it on Google, and we use it on native. There's like no problem with it. For example, you can, if you decide, all right, I don't want to do it on Facebook, you can still do it on Google, and you could say those are like the 5 best fintech companies for doing XYZ, and we're on position 1 for this big keyword. So it's definitely a good strategy to use.
And the next question is, are the advertorials applicable or working for IT service companies?
Yeah, I don't know. I never tried it for IT services, but I could imagine it could work. It depends. Like you need, like that would be a niche or an industry. What I would say, you need to be creative with your advertorial if you want to use it. You could think of different marketing angles that you might use. Like you could compare it like to a service. Why is your service better than others, and target like different keywords on Google, for example, or on Facebook. If you wanted to do a specific advertorial, you would need to think of, I don't know what exactly your product is, but you would basically have like, again, features, benefits, USPs combined into an advertorial, and what was discovered that is working in your IT service, which is making it much better than competitors. So yeah, there are quite a few ways, but you need to be creative.
And the next question, is it a good idea to post exactly the same ad in all the medias? I suppose all the different social media platforms, Google and
Yes.
so on.
So it's not the best idea, I would say, because you have like different audiences on all the other social networks. But like if you see something is already working on Facebook, why not give it a try on native Taboola Outbrain, or like on the other way around, something is already working on native and Outbrain, we also would try it for Facebook. And if it's not working, you'll need to reconsider and just change it. So.
Great. So at the moment, I see no more questions. Maybe somebody's adding a last question. We've still got 2 minutes left before we end this session and go to the next one. Just as an idea, or let's say another question, of course, when you think of that, we've heard about IT service companies trying to advertise, or fintech companies and so on. It depends, of course, on what your, let's say, your target audience is. Is it a company, let's say a buyer from a company, or somebody who's maybe a consumer? And I can imagine that, of course, certain kind of products or services will be less effective maybe on platforms like Facebook, but maybe more on LinkedIn or Google. What's your experience when you compare B2B and B2C with the current environment and this advertorial strategy?
So B2B, we're not really using it in the advertorial. So mainly it's like B2C brands, D2C brands, fast moving consumer goods. So that's like those industries where it's working pretty good. But like on the B2B side, we had some success, but it's more like on the native side thing. So it's more like in networks like Taboola or Outbrain, but not on Facebook, because yeah, Facebook is, I mean, it's a good addition, but you probably don't want to spend all of your money on Facebook with advertorials. If you have the opportunity and you know that other networks might be working better, then spend it there. Yes. So
good. So thank you very much having given us this interesting presentation, and as well thank you for everybody for listening and watching to this session. See you in the next session then.
all right.